And now there's, like capitalism in a lot of ways has infiltrated indigenous cultures too, where there's social capital, where you get capitalize on how many likes or how native you look, or all these things. So now there's a social capital to how native one can be. Oh, he's more native than that one, or like you see that all the time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, and that's social capital. So it's not capitalism is not just money. There's emotional capitalism, where you take advantage of somebody else's disparities or weaknesses, or like, oh, their vulnerabilities and all those things. So there's emotional capitalism, social capitalism. There's all kinds of capitalism. So that monetary system has now penetrated the overall psychology of how we behave as people. And not just us, all over the world, right? Like there's people in Africa that grow chocolate their entire lives and have never tasted chocolate. They grow the plant. They have no idea what the end result. They never tasted a chocolate bar at the end of the product. They're just working for 2 cents an hour, and that's what they do for Mars, Snickers, or whoever, and they've never actually tasted chocolate. You
Well,
know?
but the cacao is very sacred to them at the same time,
Yeah.
and they're using it for ceremonial purposes.
Well, in Africa, like 98% of the chocolate of the world is grown there now, and it's native to here, right? So that tells you capitalism has shifted it there to make the most amount of money because the labor is so cheap.
And it's not traditional to their teaching, so it's not sacred to them in the
Yeah,
same way.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that's kind of there's a lot of examples like that, and I think, you know,
Yeah, a lot of indigenous identity is tied to the land.
yeah,
Well, also our spirituality and our ceremonies. That's the deeper aspect of it. But our identity is tied to our land. A lot of us believe that we were created the right where our villages
hmm,
originated from. The creators came down, and so that's why we're so big on caretaking our land. 80% of of biodiversity around the world is caretaken by indigenous people.
yep,
Not That's not just in America, that's everywhere.
yeah,
And then capitalism seeks to come in and destroy our forests and along with that, the indigenous people are being destroyed at the same time.
yeah. And you look at just the technological exploitation of the land and the scarification of the land through capitalism. I saw this photo one time on National Geographic, and it was like this wheel, and this wheel is like 100 feet in diameter with these giant scoops that it's like digging at the earth. It's just spinning, and it has all these scoops. It looks like a giant saw blade. Each scoop takes away the equivalent of a giant dump truck per hit, and it's got like 80 of them, and it's just like eating away at the earth. Just and you look at the amount of earth it eats and consumes versus a native person with a shovel to grow food, or even to use the dirt to build things or whatever. Just the sheer volume of how much earth is being removed for a little shiny rock, you know and for uranium, for whatever it is, and now for electric cars and lithium and all the lithium mining that's going on everywhere. you know that in and of itself, we are never going to see our land the way it was before Europeans came, because of there's entire mountains that are gone. You know, like we could see the rest of our land that way, but the mountains that are completely gone, the voids of the earth that are now a mile, wide, just to get at gold or whatever it is, like that permanent scars that you could see from space.
The rivers that are diverted by dams,
Yeah.
the salmon population that's depleted up
Hmm.
north.
Everything. The amount of concrete. The number one black market product in the world is sand. It's not weapons. It's sand. Because the amount of concrete and glass being produced for infrastructure is so great. Now they're dredging the bottom of the oceans to get silica sand. It's not just any sand, right? Just can't go to the desert. Like they need high silica sand.
And the amount of damage that dredging does to our
Yeah.
oceans is crazy because they're just dragging nets, and the nets drag across the ground,
Yep.
and it's ripping everything up. It's killing all the animals that it's
Everything.
coming across, is all the coral reefs that may be
Yep.
down there, the plants, the seaweed, just everything just gone when it does that. And it takes generations, years and years and
Yeah.
years for that just to even start growing back.
Yeah. So part of what I've always, like, I guess, fought for, is like that awareness that, like, our little bubble of indigeneity, we need to like make it larger and think at a global scale, because a bunch of little bubbles of indigenous culture, indigenous thought are great for cultural preservation, but not collective survival, not just of us, but of the planet.
Well, if even within our bubbles, if we all take action and we're
Yeah.
all doing something a little bit,
Yeah.
that goes a long way. Like with
Mhm.
what you're doing, you have a farm, 35 acres, right?
Yeah.
Up towards Bakersfield
Hmm.
from LA, like the mountainous area.
Yeah.
What are you doing over there?
So we got 500 oak trees to reforest, because over the last 200 years, that whole mountain range has been, badly destroyed by cattle, because it was cattle ranching. Tejon, who was the quote unquote owner of thousands and thousands of acres of that land, bought all that land to create oil refineries, and he wanted to extract the oil from that whole mountain area. But when Theodore Roosevelt created the national parks system, he was forced to split it and resell back, and he had to sell it all back. He basically was not allowed to do all of that. So, but a lot of so he sold it back to individual ranchers, 100 acres at a time, and then they did cattle ranching. So he just couldn't do oil extraction. So the cattle ranching kind of ate away at all the oaks. So right now on our property, there's about 100 oaks or so, and we just got 500 oaks because we want to reforest that whole area, and hopefully help bring back deer, more bear, more turkeys. A lot of the flora and fauna from the area. We've been like systematically trying to remove all the mustard, the European mustard, and that's really hard to do. So, and because it suffocates the natural grasses and the natural flowers that are up there, the indigenous flowers and plants that are there. So we're trying, as much as we can, not just on our property, but all the surrounding areas as well. So even the oak trees, we're going to put them all over the mountain as much as we can. And before we got the land, we did approach the Kitanamuk people, which is the native people of the area, to ask for permission ahead of time. And then once we got permission, we went ahead and we purchased the land. And we told them our plan we wanted to do. We weren't going to develop on it. We're just going to build tiny homes that are sustainable and built green, quote unquote, to do minimal impact to the land, and just create a system of sustainable living through an indigenous perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty amazing. Honestly, I wish more of us could do that. I wish I had the money to do that. That's one of my big dreams. Once I can end up cultivating a little bit of money
Mm-hmm.
from building this media company, is use that and do the same thing, but up north.
Yeah.
And try to obtain more and more lands that have been slowly chipped away from my tribe.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of ways of doing it, right? Like, I know there's folks that petition the government and through rights, this is our land, and all that could
Land back.
land back, like that. I get that, and but there are those of us that can't do that.
I saw this article that said that Colorado um, is a $3 trillion. They've reaped $3 trillion from the land, that they stole from natives
I believe it, man.
because of all the minerals in the ground that they've taken out in
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, you think about like LA, for example. LA has 21 square miles of empty land that the city, the county owns. That's from here to Long Beach, a mile wide. That's enough to feed everybody.
Mhm.
You know, that's enough land to give back to indigenous people of this area. That's enough land to create a social structure that'll help, the houseless. That's enough to create programs, that and they go, most of it goes alongside the LA River. So create programs of salmon return, turtles, like all the things that used to come up this river.